The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports and Chantel, connecting Virginians to their government. And let's connect you today with Senator Phil Puckett from Russell County. Good to see you.
Thank you, Woody. It's good to be here.
A lot of action over in the Senate last week. Tell us what happened.
Well, as most people would know, the Senate has been tied at 2020 since the 2012 session and the election in November of 2011. And in 2012, the Republican Party assumed control of the Senate with the tie-breaking vote of the Lieutenant Governor. As most individuals know, we have gone through an election just last year in 2013, and Democrats won the governor's race, the lieutenant governor's race, attorney generals, and maintained the 2020 tie with two special election wins, one in the Tidewater, Norfolk, Eastern Shore area, and then in Loudoun County, 33rd Senate District. So we were back to 2020 with the exception of a change in the lieutenant governor. So Democrats made an effort to control the Senate through the parliamentary procedure rules that we walked through. Tuesday was a long day. I think everyone knew the process we were walking through, pretty much patterned after what happened in 2012. And at the end of the day, Republicans gave up their power reluctantly through the vote of Lieutenant Governor, who established 21 votes in favor of the Democratic majority. And as a result, we changed committee chairs across the Senate and actually left two of the Senate committees in the hands 9-6 votes of the Republicans. So I would say anyone who would take a look at the makeup of the Senate, you'll find it was a pattern pretty much after what Republicans had done in 12. Numbers are almost identical on certain committees. In fact, we have tried to maybe make that a little bit better so that we could say we didn't do as bad as it was done in 12. I guess that is in the eye of the beholder, but Democrats have assumed control of the Senate, and we have chairmanships on the standing committees with the exception of two of those.
And one of those is finance, I believe. There's a co-chair.
Well, the numbers on finance are still controlled by Democrats, but there is a co-chair, which might be an opening for us, Woody, down the road. I'm a little bit frustrated that we keep going through this process. When I first came to the Senate in 1999, you might remember, we were in a tie situation back in 1996. And there was a brokered power sharing agreement where committee chairs were all co-chairs. And that's the way it was when I first came, although Republicans were ahead in the numbers at that time, I believe 21-19, or 20, yeah, I guess it was 21-19. Anyway, with that change in 2000 elections, Republicans took over everything. But we've got to find a working relationship with each other so that we can do the people's business. Senator Cogan was very outspoken in our caucus that he wanted Senator Stoss to stay on as co-chair. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a working example that some of the rest of us ought to pay attention to. And it would only come about when there's a 2020 tie. Right. So hopefully we can do that.
Now, there was another rule adopted that the Republicans seem to be even more upset about, and that relates to the ability of the chairman of the Rules Committee to determine what happens to legislation when it comes back from the House amended.
There was a new rule that you heard the discussion and the debate on the floor, never been done before, and it has to do with a bill that comes back from the House, past the Senate bills pass the Senate, goes to the House, and it's significantly amended. We talked a lot about what significant meant. Did it change a lot? Most people would not think too much about that and would say, man, that's a lot of power to be given to one individual to make that choice. It had to do with the change in regulations that abortion clinics had to really change what they were doing and be much like a hospital from a standpoint of being able to relate to that. The question was, in the amendments that were put on the Senate bill, were those amendments something that should have been added, and were they germane to the original bill? Again, that was open for discussion, but in the big scheme of things, it simply was left up to the Speaker of the House. He ruled it germane in the House. The Lieutenant Governor in the Senate ruled it germane in the Senate. So there was nothing anyone could do about that except put it into the committee process. The purpose of this bill, and we're willing to leave it there, not the bill, but the amendment, the purpose of the new piece in the Rules Committee change would give the committee itself that the bill actually started in a chance to look at it. Now it would come back, without that rule, it would come back to the full Senate, you vote on it and move on. So all this does, it does require that bill to come back to the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee would have that bill go to the proper committee where the bill originated in the Senate, and the same group would hear that again.
One thing I did observe by watching the debate is that there doesn't appear to be any hard feelings, that people don't take this personally, and that they will work together in terms of the people's business.
I think you're right on that. Tuesday, a lot of people were, pretty quiet about what was going on. You notice most of the discussion was between floor leaders. But I think after everyone moved through the process and the Democrat majority rearranged the committees and things, I won't say everyone liked that. I'm sure they didn't. But what you realize up here is you work within the system, and when the cards deal it some other way, then you still have to work in that system. So I think we all realize that.
Well, let's turn our attention to Russell County. You've lost a lot of jobs as a result of tobacco not being there any longer. Coal has diminished. Tell us economically what's going on and what needs to happen to revive that county's economic future.
Well, Woody, as you know, coal is the economic engine that really drives the entire Southwest. It's very important to Russell County. I believe I'm correct in saying it's probably the first time in my lifetime that I can remember that we don't have a deep coal mine operating in Russell County. But some of that has been because of the nature of the coal market right now. Natural gas is having some effect on that because cheaper with natural gas. In fact, the coal-fired generating plant we have at Clinch River, Appalachian Power's plant, is converting their units. They've 3 units over there, and they're going to actually shut one down, which will cost us a few jobs, and the other 2 are going to be converted to natural gas or coal bed methane gas. So that'll hurt a little bit, but it will also keep a power plant that's been there over 50 years. It'll keep it on the tax books, and then it'll be an important piece once it is changed over to the economic economy from a tax standpoint. But coal is really hurt. We've lost some coal jobs, and until the industry picks back up and the coal market changes, right now the cost is creating a huge issue from production to what it sells on the market. It's probably dropped half what it was a couple of years ago. So one of the good things about what's going on in coal is we have some of the best metallurgical coal in the world in the Appalachian Basin, and so that's coal that's used to make steel, and we think that will probably return to a stable market maybe sometime around 2016, 17. It just depends what happens on the world market. But Coal is very important to us. You know, we had a press conference here last week and talked about that, and sent a letter to the President and EPA asking them to give us consideration for these new regulations that have been rolled out there that affect the coal-fired generation plants like the Appalachian plant. If they don't do that, it could significantly affect the operations of the coal-fired generating plants. They've asked for the carbon issue to be at a point that we believe significantly affects a lot of our older coal-fired plants. And the problem is the technology is not there to even do what they are asking us to do. So the alternative is to, probably shut that plant down or convert it to gas, which is better from an emissions standpoint. One of the things that I've tried to say to anyone who will listen, first of all, tell me what you're going to replace coal-fired generation with. 30% of the capacity in Virginia is produced by coal. Nationwide, it's about 40%. No one has a good answer for that. And the other issue is let's spend some money and try to do research to make this carbon capture situation work and give us some technology that we can convert these plants to. Hopefully we can do that. I'd really like to see some of the research dollars go to Virginia Tech. It's a win-win, I think. It's money for research at Virginia Tech, and Dr. Karmas and his group at Tech have been really working hard for the coal industry to find those issues that will make coal cleaner. And I would say our people probably know this better than most, but coal is a lot cleaner today than it used to be. We have, I believe, cleanest coal-fired plant in the world sitting down in Wise County at Virginia City with the new Dominion hybrid energy plant. So we can do it. We just need some balance in what we're required to do. We are making progress in some other areas. Northrop Grumman, CGI are two of the technology companies that are located in the technology park there in Lebanon. They provide about 600 plus good jobs together that probably average $45,000 or $50,000. And one of the things that's exciting about that is giving our young people an opportunity to stay at home. And one of the things I observe, I'm sort of a old fogey when it comes to technology and everything. I do what I need to do to make things work, but I don't stand around and do this a lot, and I don't text and stuff like the young people do. But the single most important thing I believe to young people today is have access to that. If you don't have access, they're going somewhere where it is. So we're fortunate to have these two technology companies right there locally and providing some good jobs for young people.
Now, there's been a push to increase tourism in Russell County as well. You've got a lot of major attractions. You've got, Heartwood, the Crooked Road, among other attractions there.
We do, Woody. We've really tapped into the music history that we have there, and of course, with Dr. Ralph Stanley and Clinch Mountain Boys there, and the Ralph Stanley Museum is something people won't believe till you go see it. It's in Clintwood, and it's something that has really been important to us. Sometimes it struggles a little bit because of the access. We're trying to work on some transportation pieces with the Coalfield Expressway that will come off of US 23, the 4-lane, into the Clintwood area, and so we are tapping into a lot of that. And most of the people outside our area don't realize the Clinch Valley area of Russell County. Clinch River starts in Tazewell County, the headwaters in Tazewell County, runs all the way through Russell, heart of Russell County. But hottest Specie River, and probably east of the Mississippi for sure. And we've got an opportunity to develop a lot of things along the river. Four-wheel trails and things are big in our area. So tourism is very important to what the new economy, I think, is going to be in the future.
Right. You had mentioned young people. You and I had talked earlier about the necessity to get young people off those computers and outside, do more activities outside. And there is a Sunday hunting bill that looks like it has a good chance of passing this year. And I know there are pros and cons. Why don't you discuss that with us and what the outlook is for Sunday hunting?
Thank you, Woody. I appreciate that. You know, the Sunday hunting bill has been in the General Assembly, introduced for several years, past few years. We've never been able to get both houses to agree. But this year we have a good chance to do that. Let me just give you a little bit of information about the bill. It's very narrowly drawn. It's only on public or on private land, not public land. And if you're hunting, for example, on my farm in Russell County, which is private land, it's not posted. But if you're going to hunt on it, you have to have a written notice with you, signed by me, giving you permission to do that. And we think that's important because it doesn't create a situation where someone is on maybe a private piece of property that the owner might not know about. And it also requires that you not hunt within 200 yards of a house of worship. And so we're excited about the possibilities of it passing. It came out of the Senate committee last week, and it's on first reading this morning on the floor in the Senate. Came out of the House last week, and so we think we're going to be successful in moving it through. The governor's indicated he supports it, and one of the things we think it'll really do, you and I talked a little bit about just the exercise itself, but we're trying to focus on young people. We've noticed in information that's come from the Game and Inland Fishery Commission that our numbers are down for licensed hunters, and particularly down in the area of young people. So we think with the extra day of hunting that will be available for people, many of our people we talked about in the coal industry, that either if you're working today, you're working probably 6 days a week, and you're working kind of an altered schedule. So you never know exactly what the time might be from a standpoint that you would have to hunt if you're working 6 days a week. So we think it'll help that. The other area that we have seen from other states that's significantly important is out-of-state hunters that come. Mm-hmm. Most won't come to Virginia if you just can hunt one day. But if you can hunt those 2 days, they'll come in on Friday, stay through the weekend. And we see a lot of that even with our four-wheel trails. It's amazing to me what's going on with that. People will come in on Friday afternoon and ride those trails all weekend. And I said to you earlier, nobody ever fusses about riding a four-wheeler on Sunday. So they're sometimes pretty loud depending on where they are. But Sunday hunting is one of maybe the only thing I know of that you couldn't do prior to this legislation on Sunday. You can do a lot of things. And I'm not one, I hunt, fish. I don't hunt on Sundays. And that's a choice an individual can make. This law doesn't, require anybody to hunt on Sunday, and I don't think it overly infringes on those who don't hunt at all. But we're excited about it. I can't tell you how many people in the Southwest, and this bill came to me from people in Dickinson County who were not able to belong to a hunt club, and they asked to introduce it. We did, and I think we've got a good chance to get them to the governor. And
of course, as you say, it has to be with the consent of the private property owner. And as I recall, you can't use dogs either to hunt deer.
That's correct. We don't use, most of that's probably east of the Blue Ridge anyway, but out our way, you don't use dogs to hunt deer any.
Back to the economy, you and I discussed earlier the potential for more natural gas in Russell County. Apparently, you don't have a very large deposit for fracking, but there's a little bit that may be available there.
There is. There's the north, what I'd call the northeastern part of Russell County, mostly coal bed methane. But we have had in the past, 15 years or so ago, maybe a little longer than that, we've had drilling for natural gas, and we believe that's there. It hasn't been economically feasible, but with the price of natural gas spiking here in the last month or so, we think that is going to be a possibility too. And recognize the topography in the Southwest is much different. As you know, we have a fracking bill and the issue today that affects basically the northern neck area and the Chesapeake Bay area. Our topography is a little bit different from the aquifers that affect water. And the fracking technique has really been used for quite some time. Again, it is being used more now because it causes the gathering of the gas to be easier and channeling it to one particular area to where it can be pumped out of the ground and put in the pipeline. So it's gotten economically feasible, and that's why you're seeing the new techniques. I think we should be prudent and cautious about water supplies and things, and we have had issues. Most of the issues we've dealt with in the Southwest have been probably because of coal, not necessarily natural gas. But there are some issues with that. But the fracking piece is one that, done in the right way and following the procedures that are set by the Department of Mine, Minerals, and Energies, which really is responsible for allowing the drilling and issuing permits. We think it can be done in a right and correct way.
Another private property initiative relates to farmers and their ability to do more with their property without state interference. There was a high-profile example last year, as I recall it, a woman who wasn't allowed to sell certain things, and it looks like that bill may have a lot more traction. I
think it does. You know, I say to people who listen all over the areas, the Southwest to me, and by the way, I'll mention this, in the change in the committees, I was able to be placed in the chairmanship of the Ag and Natural Resources.
Congratulations.
Area. And the reason I chose that is because the two leading industries in my area are agriculture and mining. Everything comes through the Ag and Natural Resource Committee. But we have an opportunity, I believe, to place limited restrictions on farming and what needs to be to make the environment safe. But I observe, as I've grown up in the Southwest, there's no one who takes better care of the land than the farmer. That's how he makes his livelihood. He loves the land, he takes care of it, because he knows in doing that it means rewards to him. So we try to balance the legislation here in Richmond so that in both farming and timber is a piece of that too, and along with mining, that we don't hurt the industries that lead our economy, but we want to do the right thing and make sure we're preserving the natural resources that we have.
Well, how important is farming to the economy of the district you represent?
It's very important. Large beef cattle, that we don't have near as much tobacco, but some people would be surprised. Well, we still grow a lot of burley tobacco in the Southwest, and Russell County is a part of that, along with Scott County. But agriculture and timber, #1 industry in the Commonwealth. Now, most people wouldn't guess that.
Right.
They'd think it's something else, coal or you know, something in the fishing industry or whatever maybe, but that's how important it is to the Southwest. I would guess in Russell County it's the leading industry along with the coal mining piece.
How are your schools doing, K through 12 in the county? There have been a number of items on the agenda yet in 2014, SOLs. King's Dominion is back with us, the takeover of the schools, grading from A to F. Tim Tebow is back, even though he didn't play yesterday. But in any event, those are the issues in the mix in terms of K through 12 this year, it appears.
Well, certainly a lot of issues. I think you go back to the campaign trail, you had a lot of discussion about SOLs. We've seen legislation originate in the House for changes in SOLs. There's a tremendous interest, I think, in looking at the ABC system, grading system, that is used to determine passing or failing of schools. As you know, last session we set up a commission that would deal with schools that are out of compliance with the 3-year straight failing grade. I think you're going to see some of that tweaked. You know, it's unusual that you would have seen the Attorney General last year refuse to defend that piece of legislation because he thought it was unconstitutional according to the General Assembly, or the Virginia Constitution and the laws of the General Assembly. I'm not a lawyer, but I would tend to agree with him. If you set up another commission, you might as well do away with local school boards. But that's a system that I think has worked well. down through the years in Virginia, and I support local school boards and hope that we don't begin to turn our schools over to, someone outside our areas. I believe our people that serve, and by the way, now they're all elected pretty much. There may be one or two that's not, but they are directly answerable to the people, and I think they make the best decisions for our schools.
What about allowing schools to determine when they start? Because there's now a law that says you can't start before Labor Day, but there's so many exceptions, it really swallows the rule already.
I think it does, and you have to make a good case. Let me just give you a good case. This morning at home, our kids went back to school for the first time in almost 2 weeks.
Right.
And Richmond has experienced that about a week, and that's highly unusual here. But it creates a problem at the end. Somewhere you have to balance out those days. And in the Southwest, particularly the mountains of the Southwest, where we generally have a lot of snow, we will start school 20th of August. Mm-hmm. Some started earlier than that this year because they lost so many days the previous year. So I think it ought to be up to, again, I think local school boards are the right channel for that, to set their calendar and decide when they want to start. I know King's Dominion and Busch Gardens and these people, they talk about the economic impact, but if it's that kind of economic impact, I would say let the people of the localities with their local school boards address that situation, and probably don't really need a state law to do that. We could do that math and figure that out pretty easy, I think.
Probably the most significant issue on your agenda this year is Medicaid expansion. We've got about a minute and a half left. There's a lot of ground to cover, but I'm sure you have an opinion on that, so let us hear that and what you think the likely outcome will be.
Well, I'm very supportive of expanding Medicaid dollars to Virginia. Two good reasons. There's probably a lot more, but first of all, there are, by anyone's numbers, at least 250,000 Virginians that don't have medical coverage. These are not people who are sorry, don't want to work, or whatever. Many of the people that we're talking about are husband and wife working for minimum wage or a little more, cannot afford to purchase a hospitalization policy. Woody, like you and I, we're old enough to where somebody else is providing insurance coverage for us, but if you haven't provided or priced a health care policy for a family of four today, you'd be shocked at what that costs. It's very expensive. The second issue for me is concern over our rural hospitals. We've already lost Lee Regional in Lee County. It's been closed by the Wellmont Foundation, the Wellmont Hospitals, and it has to do with just the money. And so we've got to get this done. We're not there yet, but I hope we can get there.
Great. Thank you for being with us, Senator Phil Puckett.
Thank you, Woody.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Chantel, connecting Virginians to their government. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans. Mm-hmm.